At the start of the season, I predicted the NIHL table. I got some of those predictions exactly right, but others not so exact. So let's talk. Sorry, I'm getting something in my ear. My producer. What was that? Roll the old intro.
Welcome back
to BritBoy Hockey. Welcome back to BritBoy Hockey.
Welcome back to BritBoy Hockey.
Welcome back to BritBoy Hockey. Did you enjoy that intro? I hope you did. I thought I'd change it up and bring you back one of the old intros. Before we jump in, make sure to slapshot that like and subscribe button and turn on notifications. And just so you know, we're going in order of total league titles. I thought we'd change the order up, and I'm also answering the questions that I set for each team in my video at the start of the season. Right, with that said, let's get into this video. Starting with the Scots, the Solway Sharks finishing 9th. Now, here's the thing, I actually predicted them to finish 9th, so I got that spot on. Heading up to Scotland, and in 9th, the Solway Sharks. But that doesn't mean it was a good season. Some nights they'd come out and perform well, other nights the competitiveness just wasn't there. Of course, they were one of the 5 teams who ended the season with 5 imports. No doubt that helped them to some extent. However, I still love Solway, Dumfries, the Sharks fans, and the trip I took up to the Ice Bowl earlier this season. I went to go see the Swindon Wildcats take on the Sharks in a doubleheader. That video is down in the description below, and it might be somewhere on your screen right now. My question though for the Solway Sharks at the start of the season was, can they push for that last playoff spot? And the answer was they pushed, but they couldn't make it, as they finished 9th, and obviously Romford took the last playoff spot. So overall for the Sharks, I'm giving them a 4 out of 10. Next up, the 3-time league champions, the Leeds Knights, finishing 3rd. Once again, I nailed this prediction. As we're in the castle, in 3rd, it's Leeds Knights. Though they lost their league and cup title, Leeds were exactly what you expected throughout the season. Consistent, competitive, always there, even if they had some injuries and call-ups to GB throughout the season. Not spectacular, but definitely strong. I'm sure they'll come out fighting even harder next season to take the league back from Wiltshire and the cup from South Yorkshire. And talking about the cup from South Yorkshire, which obviously went to Sheffield, that video is also down in the description below. My question for Leeds was, will they be strong enough to go back to back to back to back? The answer was no, but I am going to give them a 7 out of 10 because it was still a good season, even though they lost 2 titles, but they could, of course, still get a playoff championship. Now, this one, last year's playoff champions, the MK Lightning, finishing 6th. I had them finishing first. One team remains, my champions, the MK Lightning. And instead, they dropped to 6th. That is a big fall. And for the defending playoff champions, or just a defending champion in general, that's just not good enough. Obviously, Wallace and Wilson, it just didn't click this season with them. There was, of course, a lot of divisions rumoured going on behind the scenes. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know any more than you probably do, but it just wasn't good enough at all. At one point, they had 5 imports with the Osborne brothers, and then they went, and then they were, flipping players in and out and changing lines and bringing 16 and 17-year-olds up in a team that was the playoff champions. There was just a lot going on, and it wasn't a consistent season for the Lightning. My question for the Lightning was, will they shock Leeds and the rest of the league to win the league? They did shock everyone, and they shocked everyone by finishing 6th. So the answer to that is no. As for my rating for the MK Lightning, it's a very disappointing 5 out of 10. We'll talk about the news relating to them later on in this video. Now for the champions, the Swindon Wildcats. I had them down for 2nd. Wild with expectation. In 2nd, it is the Swindon Wildcats. But they went one better and claimed the league, and honestly, it was fully deserved. It was something I said in that prediction video at the start of the year or at the start of the season, that it's now an expectation almost then a goal for Swindon to get at least some silverware. They went and got the league. They've still got the opportunity to get that playoff trophy. They were consistent, dominant, and pretty much the best team in the league all season. That's not just me saying that. Go look at what everyone else is saying. I know on places like Facebook and Twitter, people around the league from all different teams are saying, yeah, you know what, Swindon deserved that one. It's rare that I give a 10 out of 10 rating for anything, but for the champions, that is my ranking. Congratulations to the Wildcats, including the kid, Mr. Callahan. My question for them at the start of the season was, will they be able to get their hands on some silverware? And of course, they did with the league. Still a chance to get that playoff title. Obviously, they've qualified for the playoffs. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the road to Coventry. Next, on to the best ice in the country, the Peterborough Phantoms finishing 5th. I had them 4th. Can they avoid the ghosts of lava? In 4th, it's the Peterborough Phantoms. So not far off at all, but overall this season felt a bit mixed. Obviously, Ashley Tate took over from Slava. That's always going to be a hard job to take over from, considering he won, what was it, six trophies in 11 years or something like that. That's obviously an incredible achievement. It wasn't a bad season at all, but it wasn't an amazing season either. My question for the Peterborough Phantoms ahead of this season was, will Tate's approach be successful in Peterborough? My answer is, I'd say so, yes, but obviously it's hard to determine because we don't have any trophies to talk about, or, you know, obviously they've made the playoffs, so that is successful, but it's hard to determine whether that approach has been successful throughout the season. If you're a Peterborough fan, I'd love to know what you think of my question, but for the Phantoms, I'm giving them a solid 6 out of 10. Into the jungle we go. It's the Telford Tigers finishing 7th. I had them down in 8th. Into the jungle we go in 8th place with the Telford Tigers. So they slightly overperformed in terms of my prediction. Nothing spectacular, but they did their job. They got a playoff spot. So, you know, you can't really complain. Again, a solid, respectable season. I watched them up in Telford in pre-season against Swindon. They were quite good. I always say to people, Telford are always good at home. My question for them was, could they hold on to that last playoff spot? The answer is yes, and not only could they hold on to that last playoff spot, but they also got the second last playoff spot. As for my ranking for the Telford Tigers, it's a solid 5 out of 10. From Telford to Planet Ice, it's the Bristol Pitbulls finishing 10th. I had them in 11th with the Bristol Pitbulls. So technically that's an improvement, but let's be honest, this was still a tough season in the pound. I said in the summer, publicly, privately, and I think even in my prediction video, that the whole combination of Batch, Bricknell, Dunbar and Hamill, and also of course Padalecki as coach, I just didn't think it was going to work out. People were saying they were going to compete for trophies and be comfortably in the playoffs and potentially win Coventry. I just thought that was ridiculous. I was like, no chance. You know, all very good players, no disrespect to them at all, of course, but it's a team, isn't it, right? And you know, 4 or 5 players isn't a team, right? And you've got to have the team around you to do so well. In the end, there wasn't much to shout about down in Bristol. My question for them was, do they have a strong enough team to make the playoffs and win trophies? The answer is nowhere near. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs. They were nowhere near winning trophies. And so it's a reset in the summer for the Pitbulls ahead of next season. I'm giving them a 3 out of 10. Richie won't be happy with that one. If he wants to sit down and discuss, I'm happy to do so. And now, staying in Planet Ice but moving to a different rink, it's the Basingstoke Bison. They finished in 11th, of course. Now, I got this one quite wrong. I had them in 7th. They ended up in 11th. Heard it back, and in 7th, it's the Basingstoke Bison. But it was always going to be a hard one to predict and a hard season for the Bison. Obviously, first season back after 2 years out. Obviously, new ownership, new regime, new start, new players. It's always going to be difficult. But as Mr. Russell from Banners on the Wall would say, 2025-26 does the ship float. 2026-2027 take her to sea. We'll see how that prediction works out. My question though for the Basingstoke Bison ahead of this season is, how will they do in their first season back after 2 years off the ice? I'd say they did okay despite finishing last. I don't think, you know, Basingstoke fans had the expectation of winning the league, winning the cup, winning Coventry. I think it was just more about, let's just get back into the rink, get a team back, see how it goes, and then regroup next season and go for it. And I do think they will, because now they've got an established group, they've got an established ownership group, the fans are back, really supportive, by the way. That's an incredible testament to those fans. And, you know, you've got to push next season, and who knows what will happen. But for the herd, and for 2025-26, a 4 out of 10. How about the 8 fans, the cup champions, the Sheffield Steeldogs, finishing 4th? I had them in 5th, the Sheffield Steeldogs. So that's a slight overperformance. And honestly, fair play. They had a strong season, stayed competitive throughout. Couldn't get their hands on the league. At some points it looked like it was possible. At the end it just slipped. But instead they claimed the cup from their Yorkshire rivals. My question at the start of the season was, will his, and that's obviously Slava's, tactics work in front of the 8 fans? And I'd say definitely. Obviously, he's led them to a cup. He's an incredible coach. I said it in my last video. He came into Sheffield. That was a big appointment at the time. He's shown that he can get a big group together, and he's shown that what he did in Peterborough is also doable over in Sheffield. So as for my rating for the Dogs, it's a good 8 out of 10. Down to the Sapphire, the Romford Raiders finishing 8th. I had them at 10th, and heading over to London, it is the Romford Raiders. So they definitely exceeded my expectations. I always feel like it's hard with the Raiders to predict, because some seasons they're really good, some seasons they're not, and even in games, some games they're not very competitive, other games they're dominating teams. I think they beat Swindon at the Link, which was, I think, one of the few teams that beat Swindon at their home rink this season. A solid season overall, and one they can build on, definitely. My question ahead of the season for the Raiders was, would they have the talent to push for the playoffs? And yes, they did have the talent to push for the playoffs, as they finished in 8th, claimed that last playoff spot. So for the Raiders, it's a worthy 6 out of 10. And finally, the whole Seahawks, who finished in 2nd. I had them all the way down in 6th. So we go, it is the Seahawks in 6th. So this is a big overperformance. My question ahead of the season was, will the forward import approach risk issues on your back end? And the answer is a bit of a confusing one, because if we were talking about the first half of the season, I would have said yes. But for the second half of the season, I'd say no. So I think this is one that we'll leave undecided. I think, obviously, the expectation in Hull was playoffs, as it always is. But knowing Matty, he'll want to qualify for Coventry. He'll want to claim that Coventry title. He'll want to do as well as he can. But as for my rating, it's a 5 out of 10. And hopefully, if you're watching Matty, you are okay with that. Let me know down below if you want. So that's every team reviewed and rated for the 2025-26 NIHL season. As you can see on screen right now, that is my full list of rankings. That's my full tier list. Before we finish though, I do want to run through some quick news just to touch on it that's happened recently. Sean Easton has returned as Romford Raiders head coach after stepping in earlier this season. Cam Huff has broken the single season goal record in this league when he hit 63. He finished on 64 goals. Absolutely unreal player. I've had the opportunity to watch him a couple of times this season. Absolutely just one of the probably the best players in this league right now. Kane Villegas and Jonathan Yantis have both re-signed in Swindon and Solway respectively. Pete Russell has been officially been appointed MK Lightning head coach and director of hockey. That was the news I was going to touch on earlier when I was discussing the Lightning. This is a huge move. Obviously, he returns to the job that he was in a couple of years back. This was something I was saying to people months and months ago, that people were saying no chance he's going to sign there, not a big enough club, why would he go from Cardiff to Germany to MK? But, you know, in the end, my prediction was right. And finally, 4 retirements: Sam Bullis, Jordan Marr, Tom Relf and Josh Batch. Massive respect to all 4. Great careers and all the best in the future. A little touch on Jordan Marr. I watched his post-match interview with Sharks TV and Andy Glenn, isn't it? Who's also very good at what he does. Jordan has picked up a coaching job somewhere. We don't know where. He hasn't told us. Which he, I believe, was contacted about back in December.
Well, there is a bit of sad news at the end of tonight, that you've got a message for the Solway Sharks fans and for the fans in general.
Yeah, it was my last game. Playing hockey is my career. I think it's had a really good opportunity to come up to continue my career in hockey. Not as a player, but as a coach. I'm not going to announce that right now, like where it is and stuff. But no, I'm very fortunate. I think come Christmas time, the opportunity came up, and they were very, very what's the word? They cooperated and allowed me to kind of finish my career the last couple of months. Obviously, I'd have liked it to be a couple of weeks, a month longer, finish it in Coventry, but finishes tonight.
And obviously, just to comment on Sam Bullis, 16 years with the Wildcats, ends it with the league trophy. Tom Ralph obviously had a great career in, ended it in Basingstoke. And Josh Batch, I mean, what can we say about him? GB international, Cardiff player, Bristol player, an incredible career, an incredible, all of those players have been incredible for British hockey. So, the regular season is done and the Swindon Wildcats are your league champions, and now all eyes turn to the playoffs in Coventry, well, except for Bristol, Solway and Basingstoke. We'll have to see what happens there. I said earlier on Twitter and Instagram, and I think on Facebook earlier this year, I will be headed to Coventry. Hopefully we'll be putting out a video about that afterwards. If you enjoyed this video, of course, make sure to like, subscribe and turn on notifications. As Mr. Ryan Reynolds, whose NIHL team is unknown, I would say comment it down below if you're watching, Ryan, but I doubt he's watching, but who knows. As he would say, don't have a good day, have a great day. It's been BritBoy Hockey, it's been the 2025-26 NIHL regular season, and until the next one, goodbye!
Welcome back
To BritBoy
Hockey.
Welcome back to BritBoy Hockey.
Welcome back to BritBoy Hockey.